You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're running out of runway again in FAB Facts.
We are cross again in the Randomiser.
and I have a chat with Lubna Kerr.
Ooh, she sounds lovely. That's all coming up in pod 148.
And she speaks very highly of you, of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello, Podsterons. Hello, Richard James.
Hello, Jamie Anderson. How are you?
I'm fine. You sound quite excited.
Yeah, you noticed. You know why, of course.
Is that because it's the pre-penultimate day before Gerry Anderson Day?
Spot on. And I can't wait. Gerry Anderson Day, the first international Gerry Anderson Day.
Yes, it is very exciting. And there's all sorts of stuff happening for Gerry Anderson Day. Obviously, if you're listening to this after the 14th of April, then sorry you missed it. But hopefully you caught it. But if you're listening to this on the day of release, it's coming very soon. And it doesn't really matter where you are in the world. There is either something or there will be a lot of things for you to enjoy for the day. There's so much stuff, I'm going to forget about what those things are during this podcast, but I will do my best to remember as many as possible. Chris Dale is here, but he's over there beavering away, preparing some final bits and pieces for the big day on the 14th.
Yes, he's got that sort of that welding torch and the visor. So he's building something quite spectacular, I think.
Well, you talk about building, we'll touch on that later, because that is one of the things that might be happening this Gerry Anderson Day. But Richard James, let's not just talk about Gerry Anderson Day. What happens on the Gerry Anderson podcast?
Well, if you've been listening for the previous 147 pods, you might well know that it goes something like this. We'll be having FAB Facts in just a moment. That's when Jamie will present us with an unusual or interesting fact from the Gerry Anderson universe. We've got newsy news, of course, which this week is very special, featuring, as it does, a few things, I should imagine, concerning Gerry Anderson Day. We've got the first part of my chat with Glaswegian actress, writer and comedian Lubna Kerr coming up a little later on. And, of course, Chris Dale will be here with his amazing randomiser. Beyond all of that, though, the most important people on this podcast are you, our lovely listeners, and we'll be hearing from you because you've been emailing us in at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. You've been posting on our Facebook group and mentioning us on Twitter. And also, because Gerry Anderson Day is coming up, I will be asking, or rather I have been asking, many of our listeners, what will they be doing on Gerry Anderson Day? Neil Holloway, for example, says, well, joining you guys on Fab Live for sure. Perhaps watching a few episodes of something. Duncan Moss says, I'm trying to get the day off work, but if I can't, I'm working early shift, so I'll be able to partake in the evening. I guess I'll join a stream until Fab Live. Can't wait. And Roger Smith says, unfortunately, I'll be working, but I have my t-shirt for when I finish.
Obviously that's the Gerry Anderson Day t-shirt he's talking about.
Quite
not
right,
just a random t-shirt.
No, true.
Well, yeah, as you'll soon to find out, there are lots of ways you can enjoy it. It doesn't matter if you're working or when you're working or where you are in the world, there will be ways to get involved and enjoy your fair dose and maybe some more of all things Gerry Anderson.
Great.
To help you on your way with that, I would like to present to you now a Fab Fact.
Right.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Fab Facts is the listeners' favourite, one of their favourites, not the least favourite part of the show, where I have a book of Fab Facts. I flick through it at random. Richard shouts Fab, and at that random point I stop flicking and then read you out a Fab Fact from the page.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense.
Are you sure you don't want me to re-explain it?
I'll give you that. No, I think we're clear.
Okay, well then here comes the flicking.
Fab!
Ooh, I'm going to slow down a bit there, because at the start I thought I was going to run out of pages.
Uh-oh.
But thankfully we've landed in the mid-1960s, and we're better to land than in the world of Thunderbirds.
Ah, great.
Everyone's favourite. Certainly, your second favourite, isn't it? Or third favourite.
Three.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
we'll be talking about someone who can do that even better than you shortly. But for now, Richard James, if there is one scene that every Gerry Anderson fan knows, I mean everyone, it is probably the thrilling climax of Trapped in the Sky, which is the very first episode of Thunderbirds, as you know.
Yeah.
In case somehow you have missed this iconic sequence, let me briefly describe it to you. The Fireflash, which is an experimental massive passenger plane, its landing gear disabled by the Hood's explosive device, must execute an emergency landing using International Rescue's elevator car system deployed by Virgil Tracy from Thunderbird 2.
Cool.
Now, if you are not familiar with the conclusion of this episode, then perhaps you should pause the podcast now, head off and watch Trapped in the Sky, and then return, because this Fab Fact could be considered to be a spoiler.
Right. Yeah, because we're not going to wait, so put us on pause. We're not going to sit here in
pause
silence.
us, and we'll assume you paused now, and now you've watched it.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Now you're back.
Yeah, wasn't it good?
Now, are you ready for the spoiler in case you haven't bothered to watch Trapped in the Sky? Here it comes. International Rescue saved the day. Would you believe that?
Get away.
Incredible. You heard it here first. However, it was only just that they managed to save the day. In the process, as you will probably know, they did crash 2 of the elevator cars.
Right.
The first, Car 3, experiences radio control failure and careers into a parked aircraft, leading to a traditional spectacular fireball.
Just the way we like them.
Of course, every vehicle is packed with 40,000 tons of TNT. The second was the master control car, manned by Virgil, which fails under the strain of applying maximum brakes. But did you know that one of these accidents was in fact a real-life accident on the special effects stage?
Really?
But yes, really, that's why I've said that. In an often repeated story, Dad and Derek Meddings both told of how the crash wasn't planned, but was in fact the result of a guiding string failing or a bump on the rolling road mechanism, depending on who's telling the story. The resulting footage looks so good that additional material was scripted and filmed to incorporate the effect into the story.
Ah.
What isn't often repeated, but is often taken for granted, is which elevator car was crashed by accident and which effect was planned.
Oh, right.
Reports from those who were actually on set vary from person to person, and time has a way, as you know, Richard, of obscuring memories of such specific details.
Who are you again?
See, happens all the time. Now, at the time we're recording this Fab Fact, there is no documentation as far as we know that was available to prove which car it was. But the most prevalent theory is that it was Car 3, since the model airplane being blown up could be a later addition. However, the master control car, or Car 1, weaves in a really erratic pattern that, to my eye certainly, more closely resembles an actual accident.
Right.
But which one was it? We don't know. Do you, listeners, have any definitive evidence of which elevator car was the accidental crashing one? Do you have a theory about which one crashed? Let us know. Email us evidence and theories to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk because we would love to know your thoughts. Now, I'm sure somebody will say, oh, it's definitely Car 3, mate. I know because I heard Derek Meddings tell the story. Well, you hear somebody else tell the story and they would have said it's Car 1. I think if you watch it when Virgil's control car tips out from under the nose and bounces around, that is not an intentional crash, I don't think. It looks like a happy accident to me. And that's where I lay my hat in the ring, if that's a phrase.
All right.
So there you go. What do you think, Richard James? Do you have any theories?
I must go and watch it before I pass any sort of judgment at all. I'm familiar with the sequence, but I haven't really watched it with that sort of eye for the detail, I must say.
Well,
I must go back.
Go and watch it. Now,
this
story is told by Dad himself on BritBox in the UK as part of Gerry Anderson Day. We'll be talking about it in the news shortly. There are 10 episodes, which we believe to be Dad's favourites from across the Super Mario Nation and live action era. We've picked those and worked with BritBox, and lovely Ben Page on our team has put together some fantastic introductions where you get some contextual info and intro from Dad in his own words from some previously unpublished tapes, courtesy of Sue Harmon of the Simon Archer estate. That's Simon Archer, who was Dad's first biographer, who was
great.
Sadly killed far too soon in an accident. But they are amazing intros, and Dad tells that story about Trapped in the Sky. So if you want to hear it from the horse's mouth rather than the horse's son's mouth, then you should go to BritBox. I think you can still get a 30-day free trial there if you're not already a member, and listen to the intro from Dad. I think it's rather cool.
Oh, so that's available now, is it? We don't have to wait for Gerry Anderson Day for that.
It is available right now, and it will be for a good few months yet too. So do pop along, but you should be able to find it pretty easily on the front page of BritBox from Gerry Anderson Day. Now, I think that brings us, perhaps accidentally, but I'm not quite sure which part of this was accidental, to the end of this week's
Crash Fact! There we go.
Who doesn't love a crash fact, eh?
Yeah, I love that. The fact that some details are just lost in the mist of time. We'll never know for certain.
It's sort of lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Now, talking of things being not quite certain, I've had an email here from Stephen, who emailed us at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk.
Oh, yes.
Hi there, Jamie and Richard James, he said.
Hi there, Stephen and Richard James.
Yeah, so I'm not sure who he thinks you are. But anyway, he says, I really love the weekly podcast, although I have to admit I've only just discovered them. What am I like? He says, I have a really awful Thunderbirds joke for you. Lots of apologies in advance. Hope something like it hasn't been said before. I keep on having nightmares about a bald guy with funny eyes. Yesterday, I dropped my tray of drinks and rolled around on the floor for a bit, and today I have this urge to turn off Thunderbird 1's automatic camera detector. I think I might have Kiranovirus. Sorry, I told you it was bad. Keep up the good work. All the best, Stephen. Now, Stephen, never, ever email us again. Thank you.
Yeah, blocked. There we go.
I think that's fair
Mark
enough.
as spam.
Dear Jamie, Richard, Chris and team. It's been a while since I emailed in, says Becca. Thanks for keeping us all sane during lockdown. A few of us podsterons from the Podders Pub quiz group happened to tune into Paul O'Grady's Sunday evening Radio 2 show, where he often plays classic lost TV themes. Becca says a few of us thought it might be good to drop him a line to ask if he could possibly try to play some classic Anderson themes in the run-up to the first official Gerry Anderson Day. What do you think? Keep up the great work on the podcast. Some favourite recent interviews have been Richard Harvey and Catherine Schell of Space 1999 and James Bond fame. Best wishes from Becca. Well, thanks for getting in touch with Paul O'Grady, Becca. That sounds a great idea. I suppose by now we will have known if he's played any Gerry Anderson themes, because I think his show would have gone out yesterday, Sunday, here in the UK. Well, so, did you listen?
Fingers tightly crossed.
Indeed.
And who knows what may happen on Radio 2 on Gerry Anderson Day itself. We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Eh? What do you mean?
Well, I genuinely don't know, but I'm guessing that something might happen. Who knows?
Oh, yeah, who knows? Hey, Jamie, Richard and Chris, says Dom Riley. Just started listening again as I've been absent due to work, and my God, I've missed so much. Yeah. It's been so enjoyable listening in my new job while doing admin. The Randomiser with Chris Dale is amazing, as is the news. Well, to put it frankly, all of it. No. I do agree with Chris on Stingray Lighthouse Dwellers and Last Train to Buffalo's Holt from Secret Service, both being amazing episodes. With the new partnership, says Dom, with ITV and BritBox, could we maybe see a new HD Thunderbirds in 4x3 and mono on Blu-ray? Especially since I just retired my old Scarlet, new Scarlet, and mine and Jamie's favourite Wonder Boy. I, of course, use the term favourite loosely. Joe 90 DVDs for Network's amazing releases of the aforementioned. Keep up the great work. P.S. Finally got round to Space Precinct. Absolute show stealer as Officer Orin. Really enjoying it so far. And that's from Dom Riley. What can he mean? So, Jamie, any hope of a new HD release of Thunderbirds in 4x3 and mono on Blu-ray?
Oh, well, we do hope so, but it's outside of our control. I mean, it seems crazy that it's now on streaming, but still not on physical, and I will keep bashing the guys at ITV over the head with the request for a Thunderbirds Blu-ray. As yet, unsuccessful, but I shall keep with the head bashing, metaphorical, of course, until we're successful.
And finally, for now, just a few more ideas of what people will be doing for Gerry Anderson Day. Simpsons Clips 24 says, I'll be sitting down with my friend Sam to watch some of Gerry's productions that didn't involve puppets. She's a bit freaked out by them. Yeah. Andrea Boot says, I'll be doing paperwork. I have a small mountain of forms I need to fill in before I start my new job. James Pilson Wood says, the very welcome return of Fab Live, and then the network stream. I can't wait. And Paul Maxton says, I might watch some Space Precinct when I get home. Fair enough.
That's a much more relaxed approach to that, isn't it? It's very
Isn't
good.
it
Just because there are things happening at certain times on Gerry Anderson Day doesn't mean you have to be regimented about your enjoyment of all things Gerry Anderson. You can do it as and when you wish. If we can help you
great.
enjoy it, then even better.
Yeah.
Richard James, speaking of that,
Yes.
there's quite a lot of news, so shall we go straight now to the Gerry Anderson news?
I've been so looking forward to this.
Me too. Here we go. Can you do a special Gerry Anderson Day version of News, Richard?
Newsy news.
That was more intimate than I was expecting, but it was still special. So,
Okay, good.
right, Richard James, this is one of those news things when you've waited for ages and, you're hoping for some cool, exciting things, and there's always things happening, but this is a real case of waiting for a bus and then they all turn up at once.
Go on then.
So, let's start with Gerry Anderson Day. Okay, so
Yes.
as long as you're listening to this prior to the end of the day on the 14th of April, and ideally you'll be listening to it on the day of release because you're, a very dedicated podster on, the 14th of April would have been Dad's 92nd birthday, and to celebrate his life and career and amazing legacy, we are holding the first ever Gerry Anderson Day. Now, I think, as we've discussed in the past, sometimes people have these days and they are kind of, they're very kind of commercial. It's sort of, we've got these new toys, go and buy all the toys and stuff. But we've done our best to make this a real celebration with as many parts of the day as easy and free to access to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
And the idea is that if you love Gerry Anderson, you get to enjoy it with fans around the world. If you have enjoyed Gerry Anderson in the past, you get to expand and revisit you expand your appreciation of the legacy. And if you are new to the world of Gerry Anderson, in which case you may not be listening to this, but you listening right now, you know people who could be new to the world of Gerry Anderson. So for you get to go out and say, hey, there's this great day, I love this stuff, you will too. Here are the ways you can access it. Now, here are some of the things that are happening on Gerry Anderson Day. Very early in the morning, on the 14th of April, we will be releasing a very special bonus episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast, which will contain a load of rather cool clips, audio clips, from those archive tapes I've talked about earlier on in this episode. It'll be about half an hour long, maybe a little bit longer, and there will be a very special interactive element.
Cool.
So if you go to gerryanderson.co.uk/GA-Day-Pod, that's GA-Day-Pod, GADAYPOD, there will be a very special player there, and if you use that player to access that bonus episode of the podcast, you will be able to vote on a couple of things through the episode, and we'd love it if you would. So a little bit of interaction, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
Now, later on in the day, there'll be some bits and pieces on social throughout the day, of course. You may wish to, at some point, visit BritBox if you're in the UK and watch some of the Gerry Anderson, the greatest episodes on there, which all have newly put together, newly edited video intros featuring audio of Dad introducing those episodes and series in his own words, which is rather cool. At 5:30 p.m. UK time, but available worldwide, will be the return of Fab Live, a Gerry Anderson Day special. And now we have a number of special guests on that.
Do we?
Yes, we have one Richard James.
Obviously.
I believe there's some chap called Jamie Anderson.
Oh, yes, I've heard of him.
We have Nick Briggs joining us, voice the Daleks. We have comic artist Lee Sullivan coming along and popping in for Fab or Fib.
Oh, lovely.
I'm hoping we may possibly be hearing from John Culshaw and maybe somebody else because of something we're going to be talking about in the news any second.
Okay.
And we also have a very special model building challenge which will be undertaken by Chris Thompson, whose work you will know from all the lovely CG stuff and the t-shirt designs, etc., etc. But he's going to be under pressure for 90 minutes while we play games and stuff. We'll be checking on him as he undertakes a very special challenge.
Great.
There may be other guests, but I think that's quite a lot of people. It's going to be a 90-minute episode. Now, once that episode is done, I mean, this is so exciting. There's just so much stuff. If you are in the UK, then you may wish to join in with the Gerry Anderson Night In Watch Along, on Network's streaming platform. So you go to watch.networkonair.com, and there you will find the Gerry Anderson Night In. It's $4.99, but once you've bought it, you can watch it for as many times as you like. It's 5 hours of carefully curated Gerry Anderson content with all sorts of linking material, and unfortunately for you, some narration by me, making it I know, I'm so sorry. We did try to get a professional, but unfortunately they weren't available. So it's a very personal take, but we'll be tweeting along live across Twitter and interacting on Facebook and all that sort of stuff. So that's a great way to spend your entire evening. So make sure you've got your snacks and stuff ready. There will be a couple of times for brief comfort breaks, but otherwise you must be glued to your device where you're watching that stream. Now, if you're outside the UK, I can hear you go, oh, but that's not fair. Well, if you're in North America, Shout Factory are putting on a 24-hour Gerry Anderson marathon. Wow.
Oh,
they
nice.
also have a bunch of trivia, linking material, and other cool stuff going on throughout the day, and you can enjoy 24 full hours of Gerry Anderson content. Now, at the time of recording, we're not exactly sure what time that is beginning. I think it might be starting at 11 a.m. Pacific time. 11 a.m. Pacific time. So that's something for you if you're in North America. If you're not in North America, do not worry.
What?
Because at 8 p.m. UK time, there is a Big Finish listening party where you can enjoy, for free, 90 minutes of Terrorhawks audios with tweets from cast and crew, including what's this guy's name? Richard Neinstein James. Isn't that you?
Oh, yeah. I'm familiar with his work, yes.
So you'll be tweeting along. Because one of the episodes is Sail of the Galaxy, starring the late, great Nicholas Parsons, and of course you had the pleasure, let's say pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Of course you had the pleasure of working with me and Denise and Nicholas to record Nicholas's lines.
Yes, although I don't actually appear in the episode.
You don't, unfortunately, which is terribly unfair. But you were the
many
one
stories
there.
to tell.
Exactly, you're the only one who's going to be on there, telling the stories live about working with Nicholas. So that's going to be rather cool. But you'll also be able to hear from Chris Dale, and from Beth Chalmers, and from Robbie Stevens, and hopefully from Jeremy Hitchin. Just follow the hashtag Terrorhawks. And if that wasn't enough, would you believe that at 10 p.m. in the UK on Forces TV, they will be playing out the result of their poll to find the greatest episode of UFO ever, and that will have another bespoke intro from Dad talking about that episode of UFO.
Wow, great. What a day.
I mean, there's other stuff besides. We've got video...
What?
I know, we've got video contributions from people, from fans of the world of Gerry Anderson from all over the world, and, conversations and polls and stuff across social media. There's some videos on YouTube. I mean, it's insane how much stuff is going on. It's absolutely brilliant. So we hope you will join us for Gerry Anderson Day. Make sure you get involved with hashtag Gerry Anderson Day on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook and all the usual social places. And if you want to watch Fab Live, that starts at 5:30 p.m. on the 14th of April on all of our social channels. You can catch us on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook and Twitter and all those things.
Lovely.
Oh dear. I mean, that's quite exciting, isn't it?
Well, I should say so.
Don't you think? I mean, this is going to be the
that's
longest...
not even half of it.
This is going to be the longest news section we've ever done because of that.
Yeah.
There's more stuff besides. But I need to have a cough there. Right. Now, also announced today is there's going to be a special feature documentary about Dad's life and career released in 2022. Yes! Anderson
Really?
Entertainment, that's us, have partnered with the FAB Factory, and we are going to put together a documentary, a warts and all documentary about Dad's life and career and everything that inspired him, the troubles he faced, the challenges, the source of inspiration. A lot of stories that haven't been told before because, he was quite private actually about his kind of emotional internal life, and it's stuff that I've learned about since. Now, we are hoping to use previously unheard audio together with deep fake AI to bring Dad back for this documentary to tell his story in his own words.
Right.
So I'm quite excited about the potential for that. It's going to be really difficult to get it quite right, but I know we can. So that's very exciting. So stand by for more information on that Gerry Anderson documentary in due course.
Great.
Now, if that weren't exciting enough...
What? Just a minute. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
I know, I'm exhausted. Let's just hear the trailer, shall we? Because this is going to say it all. So here's your trailer.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds shall withstand me.
The Rolls Royce, please, Parker.
Yes, milady. Scott, can you read me? Scott.
We shall take over your world.
It's that guy. He'll stop at nothing.
One shot and the nerve center of international rescue would be destroyed.
Anderson Entertainment presents Thunderbirds, Terror from the Stars.
What?
Wow.
What did I just hear?
You heard Thunderbirds, Terror from the Stars.
What?
A brand new adaptation of John Thaden's 1965 book Thunderbirds with a full cast audio book, which is available to pre-order now and will be out at the end of May, and you can get it on CD and the hardback reissue of the book from the Gerry Anderson store, or you can get the digital version from bigfinish.com, all on pre-order right now. But it's a full cast and narrated version, the audiobook.
Wow.
Starring John Culshaw, Genevieve Gaunt, Joe Jameson, Justin T. Lee, Anna Leong Brophy, and Wayne Forrester.
Aha!
And they've done a rather marvellous job, and it's the first in a long line of audiobooks, which we hope to be releasing over the next, 2 years, actually. Lots and lots of stuff coming.
Quiet?
Well, yes. Well, we've been working very hard in the background, you see. You know when we say there's brand new Gerry Anderson stuff being made right now?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I get it. That's the stuff.
It's the stuff. All this stuff that's happening is the stuff that. But sometimes it's like a year or 2 years. I mean, there's stuff that we're working on a year in advance right now, which obviously we won't be able to tell you about until anyway. Oh dear! I'm very excited about that. I think they've done a fantastic job. It sounds so authentic. Joe Kramer's doing the music, and he's obviously recreated the theme, but all the incidental music is very much in the style of Barry Gray, but newly composed.
Oh, lovely!
Lots of classic sound effects, all the authentic stuff, and it's very cool. The gang have done a great job. It's directed by Sam Clemens, son of the late great Brian Clemens, him of Avengers and Professionals fame.
Oh yes, good.
Produced by our chum Andrew Clements, who's done a great work. Clemens and Clements, what a great law firm. I mean, director-producer combo. And Andrew's also adapted this. So all of these books are being adapted by true fans and creatives who love the shows and want to make them as authentic as possible. And that's working out incredibly well. So much more to come, and there you go. Hopefully that, if ever you were worried that there wasn't brand new Gerry Anderson stuff being made right now at any one time, well, this is proof that it's always happening. And finally, from fictional astronauts to real ones, have you, Richard James, well, probably not you, but have you, listener, ever wished that you were a spaceman or spacewoman or space person, the fastest person alive? Perhaps Thunderbird 3 or Thunderbird 5 your favourite vehicles, or an Eagle in your case, Richard?
Yes, exactly.
Is being in Zero X your dream? Well, you've been in it, Richard, in the animated motion comic.
You could say that.
Well, look, this could be your chance to be an astronaut. The European Space Agency is accepting applications for astronauts and an astronaut with a disability for the first time in a decade. Applications must be submitted before the 28th of May, and you can find more details at esa.int, but we'll put the full link in the show notes, and you can find out how to apply to be an astronaut there. Isn't that cool?
That's really exciting. And also, my son did a work placement at ESA, so if you maybe mention his name in your email, and, it might just swing it for you.
Well, also mention the fact that you listen to the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Yes.
And, of course, Dr. David Parker, the head of human space exploration at ESA, is, one of your favourite interviewees. I mean...
Yeah, good point.
Could a Podsteron be the first Gerry Anderson fan in space?
Phil Steer, we're looking at you.
We certainly are. Go on, Phil, get on with it. Right, that is quite enough for one section of news. I feel like we've been going on about this stuff for an hour. So that is the end of this week's Gerry Anderson news.
That was the news, about as exciting as it gets news.
Well,
really,
we've got to up the game now, but I'm pretty sure this is one of the best news things we've done for ages. So
absolutely.
Okay, now, Richard, over to you.
Over on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/posterons, I've been asking people how they're going to be spending Gerry Anderson Day. Gary Hodgkinson said he's going to be at work most of the day with the earlier start time, but hopes he can be home in time for Fab Live, and he'll be wearing something Anderson. Rebecca Andrews says she's looking forward to Fab Live, and Willow Lambden Smith says FAB Live, or rather Fab Live, all the way. Then, as it's a Wednesday, it's on to my weekly Danger Wednesday video calls with my two friends, where we'll talk talk about random things, and I'll plan more for the Potter's Arms Zoom quiz. I mean, if there's a better place to celebrate Gerry Anderson Day than the Gerry Anderson Podcast Facebook group, I don't know where that place might be. So if you're not a member of the group, please pop on over there now, answer a few questions, and you can join in the fun. I bet there'll be a lot of discussion about Gerry Anderson Day on Wednesday, and I'm sure you won't want to miss it.
No.
I mean, I wouldn't.
I mean, I don't know how you could miss Gerry Anderson Day with all the time we're mentioning the bloody thing, but hashtag Gerry Anderson Day.
Yes, great.
Wow. Richard.
Yeah.
You have been giving me a bit of a holiday recently, haven't you?
I know. What have you done to deserve that? I suppose you did just do that really lengthy Gerry Anderson news section, didn't you?
Well, I think so, and that means I definitely deserve a break from interviewing, but I am a bit worried because it's almost as if you're trying to lull me into a false sense of security.
Really? What on earth makes you think that? Anyway, I was lucky enough to be put in touch with Glaswegian actress, comedian and writer Lubna Kerr. I happened to drop her a line on Twitter after being introduced by a fellow Twitterer, and I just said, do you have any interest in Gerry Anderson shows and anything you'd like to talk about on our podcast, thinking that maybe she had a story or two to tell. Well, turns out I was right. After completing the Laughing Horse comedy course in 2013, Lubna Kerr has become a regular face on the Scottish comedy circuit. She's gigged in the UK, as well as putting in the occasional appearance in the States. With humour that bases around her Asian heritage, Lubna attempts to break down and play on the stereotypes attached to her background. She's also a trained actor. She's made many appearances on stage, television and film, and she was one of the stars of Still Game at the Hydro in 2014. She's also made appearances in BBC One's Scott Squad and Armchair Detectives. And in 2016, she made her big screen debut in the feature film Moondogs. So, Lubna Kerr, a very warm welcome to the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm really excited to be here. Richard, thank you for inviting me.
We sort of hooked up over Twitter, didn't we? I think we were kind of introduced via a mutual acquaintance. And I dropped you a line last week and asked if you would be interested in joining us here on the podcast. And you said, well, any excuse to talk about myself is very welcome.
Well, I think you said crazy question. And I said, there's no such thing as a crazy question.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. So you also mentioned when we started talking that you had memories of Joe 90 as a child. So let's talk about then, what were your evenings like as a child? Were you gathered around the TV as a family? What did your evenings consist of as you were growing up?
So I was born in Pakistan, and my parents came over in late 60s, and my father got a scholarship to do a PhD in chemistry. So we moved to Glasgow from a very middle-class family life in Pakistan, where everything was done for me, and for my mum in particular. And she came, she had like a cook and a cleaner and everything else in Pakistan. It was normal. That's what, there was a hierarchy there. And then she came to Govan in Glasgow, and she's like, where is my cleaner? And she had to cook and clean and do everything herself. And because my father was on a grant, we couldn't afford television. So, and we were tenants. And my first memory of watching very early versions of the repeats, actually, of Joe 90 was in our tenant when he was out, our landlord when he was out, had a good room. So we would sneak into this good room and put the television on.
Now, did you feel that sense of culture shock as well when you moved to Scotland? Or were you too young, do you think, at the time?
I was quite young, but bizarrely, I was sent to speech and language therapy because they thought I had a stutter. But it wasn't a stutter. It was the fact that I was trying to grasp speaking Urdu at home and then English at school.
Right.
And, and you were learning English at a much later time than you were learning Urdu. So your brain is trying to absorb all these cultural references and language references. And then it wasn't English we spoke in Glasgow, was it?
Sure, yes, I suppose so, yeah.
There was a dialect of Scottish Glaswegian that you also had to take on board. So, yeah, it was... so my first memory of us watching Joe 90 was in secret. But the secret is now out, Richard.
Yes.
I've never shared this with anybody else.
That's great, yeah. So, I don't want to be too specific, but what sort of, this mid-70s, do you think, or late 70s, or... Yeah.
Let's leave it at that.
Okay, yeah, of course. And do you remember what it was in particular that stuck with you all these years from Joe 90 specifically?
Yeah. So I know this is so obviously I'm dark skinned, and then seeing somebody on television who had the white skin and the blonde hair, and it was like, oh, I think that's when I fell in love,
Really? With Joe 90?
With Joe 90, yep. And and we were very similar age at the time when I watched it. And the thing was, Joe 90 had this adventurous spirit. His father was a scientist. My father was a scientist.
Yes.
My father, Joe 90's professor, wore the glasses. His father wore those square rimmed. My father had the same glasses. And I'm like, oh my God, we have so much in common, me and Joe.
Yes.
So I could really relate to him as a child growing up, thinking, this is just wonderful. Another thing that I loved about that very first episode of Joe 90 was, my father was a scientist. My mum was an arts graduate, but she was really interested in the mind. And the rats machine, right?
Yes, the big rat. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so my mum loved the concept of that. Actually, she loved the concept of the mind, how the mind could influence the body, and just what you could do to the mind. So she used to have a magazine she'd subscribe to called The Psychologist. And then later on, she bought a book that's called Bring Out the Magic in Your Mind. She didn't write it, but I still got that copy of the book. So watching Joe 90 really appealed to her because of how you could influence the mind.
Yeah, interesting.
So, yeah, very, very interesting. A totally different angle. So I suppose the attraction of Joe 90 and of Captain Scarlet and of Stingray was that they were very grown-up themes, but as children, you accepted them.
Yeah.
There was quite a lot of violence, you'd call it that, and people were getting killed and shot and blown up, but you didn't question it. You were like, that's just life. That's just what happens.
And of course, the thing with Joe in Joe 90 is his difference is celebrated, isn't it? It's his difference that make him what he is.
Absolutely.
Did that chime with you at all growing up as you were in Scotland? Did you feel different or,
Oh, absolutely. I felt different because I looked different to everybody else in my class. I smelled different because we had spices at home and we had coconut oil in our hair, which I used to hate because it always looked greasy. But actually, hey, guess what? We were right. It's good for you, coconut oil. So you look different, you smell different, you dress differently outside school. So school, you had uniform, and afterwards so very much I could totally relate. But then, as I said, I had so much in common with Joe. Our fathers were scientists. They wore the same glasses. They were good-looking guys.
Yeah.
And then there was that relationship between the three men, the three adults, that was actually quite explosive. And but they were allowed to debate and have a heated argument. But then they were best of friends. Yeah. And I'm like, that's like Pakistani life. That's what we're like.
Right.
We could have explosive conversations, very animated. And then it was like, yeah, okay, so what are we having for dinner? Oh, curry. Oh, right, okay, fine.
And it's all forgotten. And you sit down and
forgotten. It's actually quite refreshing because the British are always seen as a sort of stiff upper lip, whereas in the Joe 90, the characters were allowed to have opinions that were different, and they weren't stiff upper lip. They were actually quite brave and adventurous.
Yeah, there's that famous sequence at the end of that first episode where it suddenly kind of cuts into a sequence of stills where the men are arguing about Joe's fate. It's quite shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, it is in the fact that his father, not that he doesn't care, but it's almost like, I don't know, he's testing him and saying, what can you do, Joe? Are you up to this? And I could also relate to that because most of the immigrants that came here and stayed for their children's education. Didn't matter where you came from in the world. Yeah. They came for different reasons. My father came to do a PhD and he stayed for the children's education. He could have gone back to Pakistan, become a professor, but he knew that our life would be better. So there was this, we had to achieve because our parents had sacrificed, and that's what Joe was like. He had to achieve. He couldn't fail. So again, I could relate to that, sort of, I know what it's like. I've got to do well.
And also, of course, it's every child's fantasy, isn't it? To not to have to study and work hard to gain knowledge, but to simply have it implanted by a series of brainwaves and you know it immediately. I mean, that's every child's fantasy, isn't it?
It's every adult's fantasy.
Well,
come on.
True enough.
If I could do that, it's every actor's fantasy. It's every stand-up's fantasy. Just,
Yeah.
And, do you ever get this in the middle of the night where you can't sleep for whatever reason, and you wake up and then you've got all these millions of thoughts going on? And, and I always say to people, oh, write them down. But I just wish there was a rat machine that I could just go into and it would just transplant everything out of my head onto paper.
That's right, because it would do the legwork for you, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Totally.
I found it really interesting when you mentioned Joe 90 because it's often considered one of the perhaps darkest of Gerry Anderson's series. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, there's this 9-year-old boy who's essentially brainwashed every week. And it seems not against his will, but it's a little distasteful, perhaps, that his adoptive father should put him in this machine and implant him with brainwaves every week. Did you, as a child, pick up on those sort of darker themes, or was it just the imagery, the music, and so on that excited you?
I mean, the music was absolutely fantastic. I loved the music, especially on Joe 90, because it was like the 70s, 60s, 70s vibe, and I could just even when you hear it today, you just transport yourself into that time zone. So absolutely, I loved the music. I didn't think of it as a darker theme at all, because I think it goes back to Joe I felt like he was really grateful to be adopted. So he actually wanted to please his father. So, and there was that adventurous side of, this is what other 9-year-old gets to do that. I was jealous of Joe. Yeah. So why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't see it as brainwashing. I think that's more retro. That's more people now looking at it and think, oh, that was bad. But actually, children are so adaptable. It's the adults who struggle with themes like that. It's not children. Mm-hmm. Children just take everything in their stride and what else can you throw at us? Yeah, of course we'll just bomb a few Russian planes. That's nothing.
Now, so there you were, taking these sort of stolen moments to sneak in and watch Joe 90 on a TV. At what point then in your sort of young life, or did it happen in your young life, did you start to think that perhaps you might one day work in a similar sort of world in TV production or on stage or in comedy?
Well, I used to, so I was in the Brownies when I was very young, because my parents were very keen for us to assimilate into the local culture and local community. So one of my friend's parents said, oh, the Brownies would be a good thing for Lubna to go to. So Lubna went to the Brownies. And I was so excited, Richard, because I thought I was going to meet my brown sisters.
Yes, of course.
Brownie, what do you expect? I was like...
It must have been very disappointing for you.
I was very disappointed, I have to say. And then the Brownies, you get a badge. You get a badge for, making your granny a cup of tea or doing shopping or whatever, But you also got a badge for meeting somebody from a different Commonwealth country.
Right.
So I was really popular. I was an original tick box. But during the Brownies, right, you did plays. And the very, very, very first play I did, I can't remember what it was called, but my role was Audrey.
Right.
I was about 7 or 8, I think. Mm-hmm. So I was called Audrey and I had a really, really good memory. And I think that's what Joe and I had in common. But I didn't have a chance. I was my father's diary for all the phone numbers. I knew everybody's phone numbers. I had a great memory. And I remember the Brownell saying to my mum after the performance was over, oh, Lubna was so good. She knew everybody else's lines as well as her own.
You're one of those, are you?
Well, there was no prompt.
Yeah.
So they were forgetting their lines, and I'm like, this is what you're like. So that was my first, and I just loved it. I absolutely loved being on stage.
Yeah.
So I did plays through school, through Brownies, but as I've already said to you, my parents were very middle class, very academic, and it was like, Lubna, don't forget, very good actor, but it's going to be a hobby.
Right, yes.
Okay, what are you going to be? That's right, you're going to be a doctor.
Now, did that come from your father in particular because of his science background? Or
No, my father wanted me to be a pharmacist. Because his best friend was a doctor, but the best friend's son was a pharmacist. And so the best friend said, pharmacist was a very good job for a woman. And one day I woke up and I was a pharmacist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I trained. That was my profession. I trained as a pharmacist and did that for many years.
Yeah.
And until I was able to have my own life, really, when the children were all grown up. And so I came to acting about 11 years ago. So much later on in life.
Okay,
Yeah.
inspired by what, or was it just something that had been buried all that time that you knew you were going to come back to, or?
I always knew I was going to come back to it because I did it up to the age of 15. And then when I was at university, I did reviews and, and I've always written. So I would review films. I would take part in the sketch reviews. My husband at the time did say to me, you can go to Amdram. And I'm like, the children were young. And I thought, well, I go to Amdram. Who's going to take them to all the activities?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when my marriage broke up in 2010, and then I had this space in my life. And I'm like, oh, what do I want to do now?
I see. Yeah.
And then there was an improv group not far away from where I lived. And I thought, I'll go to that. Except I didn't know it was an improv group. It was drama.
Wow.
So I went along and it's like, where's the script? And they're like, oh no, it's improv. And I'm like, what? Improv? And I absolutely loved it. And then the rest is history.
Ooh.
Oh, thanks, Lubna. So nice to talk to you. Second part of that interview will be with us next week.
Yeah, Glasgow 90.
Yeah, very good.
That best I could do. I mean, I wouldn't creep into anybody's house to watch Joe 90, I have to say. But each their own.
I mean, I'd hope you wouldn't creep into anyone's house to watch anything, but
it
specifically
depends.
not Joe 90.
It depends. I mean,
right.
Terror of the Zygons. Well, I'd certainly consider breaking into my neighbour's house for that.
Fair enough. And on that bombshell, here are some more things that some of our listeners will be up to on Gerry Anderson Day this Wednesday, the 14th of April. Raymond Hunt says, I'll be working for most of the day, but putting on my T-shirt when I get in. Ian Allen says, do you mean you'll be working without a T-shirt? Ian Allen says, I'll be joining you guys on Fab Live on the day to celebrate Gerry Anderson Day in my man cave / museum, surrounded by all my Anderson sci-fi related items with a small glass of Thunderbird sparkling wine. And after Fab Live, I'll watch my favourite episodes of Thunderbirds, Trapped in the Sky. Dave Lawson says, I'll try to get there, but I hope my shirt makes it in time first. Well, Dave, good luck. He's down there in Australia, so here's hoping. Yes. And finally, on a serious note, I'd like to send our thoughts and best wishes to regular contributor Simon Allen, who lost his mother this week. Now, Simon's prolific, on the Gerry Anderson podcast Facebook group, and his quips and puns are very much appreciated by all. So our thoughts go out to Simon and all who knew and will miss his mum.
Oh. Well, isn't that nice that we can be nice to each other in this rather lovely community of podsterolls?
Absolutely right, yeah.
There you go. Now, I think we could all do with cheering up a bit.
Yeah,
Chris has finished his welding.
Oh, good. Oh, look at that.
I know. I don't know what it
huge.
is.
Where are we going to put it?
I'm not sure we're going to get it out the door, to be honest. It's going to have to stay there. But now, Chris, now you're finished, you might as well do your randomizer thing where you choose a random episode and from pressing a red button on your machine and then you watch that random episode and say things about it.
What, the randomizer, you mean?
Yeah, he's nodding. So I guess that's it. Shall we just hear the randomizer?
Yes, just do the randomizer.
Okay, here's the randomizer.
Chair goes up, chair goes down. Chair goes up, chair goes down. Chair goes... number 6, my dear chap. Yes, please, do come in. Can I offer you some breakfast? My little friend here can sort you out anything you'd like.
Forget the amenities. This is not a social call.
Oh, really? Well, what can I do for you today?
You telephoned. You said you wanted to see me urgently.
Did I? Well, that's news to me.
It's your voice. He said he was number 2.
Hold on, let's just check the folder here. 6. No, we've got you in tomorrow morning being pumped full of drugs, and then we're hooking you up to a special machine in the afternoon. Oh, I'm sorry, no, that was last week. Oh, silly me. I'm still settling in here, bound to be the odd mistake. 6. No, we don't seem to have anything for you here today. Well, I guess you can go. Sorry for wasting your time.
Don't mention it, Dad.
Oh, number 6, before you go, there is just one little matter you could clear up for me. It's a teeny tiny thing. What did the randomizer printout give you?
I've nothing to say.
Oh, come along now, number 6. There's no need to be like that. I mean, you told me why you resigned, didn't you?
Really?
Oh, you will, my dear chap. So it would save time for everybody if you just told me what the randomizer gave you, then we can get on and watch it.
Are you running out of time?
You do still have the printout.
Of course. Naturally.
Well, now the only way I can find out what you got is to pick up all these pieces of paper and tape them back together. You see, that really is very childish of you, number 6.
Do you think so?
Oh, come on, number 6. We're both reasonable men. I certainly don't want to be your enemy.
Don't you? Your predecessors did.
Look, couldn't you just give me one teeny tiny hint?
I'm going to do better than that.
Oh, really?
I want to call a witness.
A witness?
Yes.
Not a hint?
No.
But, oh, hello.
I don't want a hint. I want you.
Ah, of course! Yes, Peter Bowles, who was in 2 Gerry Anderson episodes.
If you've only now discovered that, I'm afraid you're a little late.
Yes, a Space 1999, which we've already done, and a... Oh, well, I'm sure our listeners won't mind skipping the randomizer just this once. I mean, it doesn't really matter, does it?
It does to them. We mustn't disappoint them.
Otherwise, what, they're going to shoot me or something?
They're not going to shoot you. They're going to blow you up.
So anyway, it's the Protectors today with Triple Cross. But hey, maybe it'll be a good one.
I'm anxious to find out.
I think I might resign.
You're wasting your time. Many have tried.
So, welcome back to The Protectors, first season of The Protectors, and to the only episode of The Protectors, I believe, that has ever been broadcast on the BBC. This was shown in 1994 on BBC One as part of a sort of tribute to Lou Grade. They had like a week of ITC shows at night. They had an episode of The Saint, an episode of this, episode of The Persuaders, and an episode of Space 1999. And in fact, I have the trailer for that repeat run to show you right now.
Roger Moore is the Saint. Robert Vaughan is the Protector. Tony Curtis is the Persuader. And Martin Landau is the face of Space 1999. A week of classic ITC action drama starts with The Saint, Monday, 10:30 on BBC One.
If you're interested, the episode of Space 1999 was War Games. Anyway, waffled over Harry Rule arriving at a petrol station, and a couple of ladies have been dropped off. Hitchhiking ladies by the look of it.
Car wash, sir? No, just fill up the tires.
They've caught Harry's attention.
2628? 3622.
Yes, some very 70s dressed young ladies here.
Could you possibly give us a lift?
I'm going to Bangkok.
Oh.
Well, could you drop us in London on the way?
Why not?
Are you here for business or pleasure?
Well, a little bit of both. How about you?
Me? Strictly for business, Mr. Rule.
Uh-oh. Got a gun.
Drive.
This is the trouble of picking up ladies at petrol stations. Meanwhile, over at Harry's place, the Contessa and Paul are just there with Suki.
For you, madame. Thank you, Contessa di Contini. St. Mary's Hospital? Yes, I'll hold on.
Oh.
It's the casualty department of St. Mary's Hospital. Of course, I'll come straight away.
Was it Harry? An accident?
No, it was the casualties department at St. Mary's Hospital.
Harry is dead.
Oh dear. So back from the opening titles, on that bombshell that Harry is dead, he's really dead, which is why we then go to the Protector's opening titles and see Robert Vaughan. Yes, but no, Harry is dead, absolutely and totally very dead. Anyway, we're now back with not dead Harry, as he's been taken off to a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere.
Special delivery.
Pay off your friend, darling. Drop her off on the motorway. Maybe she can hitch a ride back to London.
A sleazy chap in a grey suit and grey tie. Very much a villain-looking sort of fellow. Harry's been unblindfolded.
Tell me what this is all about. One thing I can tell you, mate. You're going to be among friends.
Ah. So, leading him down into the basement, and... Oh, the Contessa and Paul are already there, manacled to the wall.
Harry! You too. How did it happen? A fake accident report. We walked straight into it.
Correction, we ran straight into it. You should be flattered, Harry Rule.
Okay. This is no time for an inquest. Later, maybe. Right now,
I want to show you this little gadget.
Ooh. Oh, it's one of those bomb things.
Now pay attention. So I'm only going to explain it once.
Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once.
Now, this stuff is dynamite.
Oh.
Now, this thing with the wires is a little spring-loaded detonator, all set to go off in exactly 8 hours.
Harry's got a really serious look on his face. He's following this. Ah, so there's a bomb. One of those bomb things I've heard about.
Do you hear that?
Ah.
Beep, beep.
Yep.
Now, if you get clever, all I've got to do is turn off the transmitter and bang, no bother.
So our friend has got a remote control device for the bomb.
It won't do nothing right now if I switch it off. But you can bet your lot it will once she's loaded, Mr. Rule.
This all looks very complicated. For something so simple.
Let Harry.
Don't worry. He ain't the one who's going to need it. I wouldn't jump up and down on that thing if I were you, mate.
Well, while you're in an expansive and explaining mood, would you mind telling us what this is all about?
Why not? Now, you've got this little get-together lined up for this afternoon.
Is that so?
That is so, Mr. Rule. With a certain Mr. Koufax, a fancy social register ship owner. And I'll be coming along with you.
You'd do anything to get into high society, wouldn't you?
You got it, darling.
So, yes, this naughty chap is he's going to take Paul's place, pretend to be one of the protectors.
Don't forget my little switch on the transmitter. All I gotta do is flick and bang. Do you want to try it?
Not at the moment.
Here's a radio for you, just to remind you of your friend Paul Boucher.
Who's been left manacled in the farm basement.
Okay. You designed the security system on Koufax's pad.
I did? Oh my goodness.
You watch by closed-circuit TV. I'll have to flick the lights at 6-second intervals.
Great.
This chap, John Neville, is one of these many, many times I say, is this the only time that such and such? But I'm going to go for it this time. This John Neville person, is he the only actor who has appeared in an Anderson show who has worked with the one and only Mr. Stephen Hawking? Because many years later...
Don't forget the beep to beep.
He later turned up on Star Trek The Next Generation playing Isaac Newton in the opening scene of the episode Descent, where Data was playing poker opposite Newton, Einstein and Stephen Hawking, played by the real-life Stephen Hawking. So I'm wondering if this is the only Anderson actor to have that experience of working with Stephen Hawking. Of course, now this will finish and we'll cut back and Richard will say, oh yeah, I worked with him on this CBBC thing back in 2001. Oh, who am I kidding? It's a Protectors randomizer. Nobody's going to listen to this. Oh, but here's Peter Bowles.
Santini? I'm honoured, Contessa.
The classiness factor has just leapt considerably.
And my associate, Paul Boucher.
Oh. Well, I assume you have no secrets from Mr. Boucher?
It seems that way.
Good. So now I can
The
tell
first of his two appearances on in Anderson shows. He was also Balor in Space 1999.
former splendour. The gems, you know, were first stolen by the Crusaders as they made their way to more holy pastures. Eventually they were found and reassembled and brought home, where they were entrusted to a very famous and talented gem setter. Oh, very like our Mr. Nervenov here. Well, he promptly stole the gems and made his getaway with some pirates who, with a true sense of justice, cut his throat.
Oh, poor little Mr. Nerfinov, was it? Bowles is using him as like a prop.
Never once were they reset in the cross. This time they will be set in the cross, and the cross returned to my homeland.
Wherever that is.
The one great pious act of my sinful life.
Where are the gems now?
They are being flown in from Amsterdam, due to arrive in London in 3 hours' time. Until this moment, only I and my Dutch friends knew of this fact. Now it is up to you to make sure that the gems arrive here, safely.
As if I didn't have enough else to do.
That should be okay. We can hire an armored truck and some reliable guards in that time.
An armored truck, will that not attract attention?
Yes, an armored truck will attract attention.
Oh, A diversion. Say no more. One does not hire Rubens and then lean over his shoulder to tell him how to paint. You know that you have my complete trust. Totally. But I think that I will be there myself, with my private detective and a few others. Just
in case we tried to steal them ourselves.
We are all human, Contessa.
I'm not. Oh, meanwhile, Paul is still having fun with the bomb. Yes, Peter Bowles is looking... he looks like a decent sort of chap, but he might have a sort of shady side to him. Got a lot of antiques about the place. Oh, that bomb is... Paul's been left manacled to the wall opposite the bomb, which is on a stack of crates, and it's perched on the very edge. If somebody came in and just happened to brush that stack of crates, well... Could be a bit of a bang going on there. Meanwhile, at the airport...
Here's a duplicate of the package you're going to collect. Just make sure I get the real one.
Ah, right. So, not Paul.
The transmitter stays on 2 hours after we clear the airport.
Is after those jewels that Peter Bowles wants to have set in the cross.
It means you take it or leave it, darling.
We could have handled all this, you know, sir.
Oh, who's that security man? I recognise him from somewhere. Anyway, the...
Which vehicle has carried the jewels, sir?
Only Harry Rule knows.
The handover is being made.
Don't worry. He's a very clever man in his work.
And the protectors, well, 2 protectors and 1 imposter, heading back to their car. Oh no, fake Paul is heading back to the car. Where are the others going?
He's going to use the truck after all. If we make it, I'll see you at the house.
Contessa's gone in the Securicor van. And Harry...
You are coming with us?
No, I think I'll walk. Something tells me I'll need a little exercise.
Has given them the fake...
Empty.
Oh, empty. I suppose that makes more sense than faking them.
It's a double cross.
No, it's a triple cross. Or a treble cross. Who knows what's going on at this point? But Harry is now escaping in a little van. Bowles and Sidekick are in pursuit. And this is a rather nice car chase across a real airport. That's ended now that Harry's crashed through a... Oh. He's abandoned the car after driving through one small wooden gate that has all the tensile strength of like a rabbit cage. Anyway, oh dear, Paul is trying to coax the stack of crates towards him with his feet. Oh, his wrists are bleeding from the manacles. Gonna see if he can get hold of that bomb. Oh, which is so wobbly. But he's a brave lad, is Paul. And back at Harry's pad.
The radio directional equipment is in the van.
All right, you can work out the frequency from the receiver. We'll exit through the back.
All right.
But where are they gonna go? Ah. They've got a van full of equipment waiting out the back.
3 hours, that means we got less than 50 minutes. Let's go.
But I have actually been to the flat that Harry Rule's Mew's apartment from the Protectors. I've not actually been inside, but what you don't realise if you just watch the show is that there's basically no road. It is just you turn in and there's the house, and basically there's just enough room to turn your vehicle around. There's no street there. There's no room for a back entrance, so I'm not sure where those scenes would have been filmed. Anyway, Paul and his trusty red boots have now very nearly lowered the bomb off the stack of crates. Dropped it, but it didn't go off. So now, when the explosion happens...
Trace. You mean we're out of range?
That's what it looks like.
He'll be blown to pieces.
There's the transmitter.
From a slightly different angle.
Charlie, it's a strong signal, not too far away.
Pinpointed.
It won't take us to Paul.
No, but Laughing Charlie will.
The Protectors in their Protectors communications van, homing on naughty old Not Paul. And it seems to have brought them back to the farm. Unless this is a different farm.
Something very odd about it. It's coming from fairly high up. Are there any tall buildings in this area?
Negative.
Well, there's the London car view. Oh no, we have a windmill. We're going to have a fight in a windmill? Well, that'd be a nice change. Oh, interesting camera angles there. Looking straight up. Into the windmill. Oh no.
Harry?
He's dead. Now who will play Isaac Newton?
The transmitter's still working.
See if he's got the keys to the handcuffs in his pocket.
But why, Harry?
I don't know, I'm thinking.
Well, whatever you come up with, it won't help Paul now.
How much time have we got?
25 minutes. We'll never find him in time.
We get a lot of things done in 25 minutes, Caroline. You should know that by now. Why'd they drag him up to the windmill to kill him? Oh, no, sound of a doggy. But no sight of a doggy. There is an arriving car, though. With, one of the naughty ladies from earlier. The one who had a gun on Harry.
Where's Paul Boucher? Where?
It's Charlie.
You want to see Charlie? Take a look. Yeah, he's dead. Where's that farmhouse?
Charlie!
Where?
Oh, who cares? Let's go. Oh, camera crew reflection in the side of the van there.
One thing's been bugging me. I was able to match that package at the airport. Give us an exact duplicate of the real one.
I don't know that. Only Koufax could have told him.
Maybe he worked for Koufax.
A double cross.
And if Koufax killed Charlie, a triple cross.
So Peter Bowles was not as nice as he made out. Meanwhile, Paul has noticed something. Something with 4 legs and a tail. It's rather interested in this bomb.
Allez, allez-vous-en. Filet.
This is Bomb Disposal Cat. He knows what he's doing.
4 minutes.
And that involves pulling the bomb around by its wires.
Viens, mon petit, viens.
Which is the best approach.
Allez, allez-vous-en. Filet.
Maybe the cat doesn't speak French. He's very keen to help, though. You've got to admire that.
You know, in less than 2 minutes, Harry, that bomb is going to go off.
For Paul's sake, let's hope our timing's wrong. There it is.
Well, it's 19 and a half minutes through the episode, so we're keeping very good time, actually. Coming up to the end of the story. Will we save Paul? There's a scarecrow that's getting some close-up shots here. More unusual angles as Harry and the Contessa run out of the van. Now, how do they get into the farm?
Va-t'en, imbécile que tu es!
Our bomb disposal cat friend is now having a go at the sticks of dynamite. Oh, Harry's driven through the wall and scared it off.
Harry, get this thing out of here.
What, the cat? Oh, the bomb. Harry's very casually taking his time, lumbering out. Oh, I knew there was a reason the scarecrow was getting close-up shots. There he is. Gone up in flames. Bomb disposal cat's okay, though.
Well, that's quite a story. One question, though. He doesn't give Koufax a clear motive.
Well, how do you like $3 million insurance for a clear motive?
I like it very much. What do you hear about that?
The customs declaration form you signed at the airport.
The fine print?
The fine print. You should always read the fine print.
Okay, let's talk to Koufax.
So, back to Peter Bowles' place. Yes, I'm sure his role in this episode didn't win him certain scary female fans who
Front door. That leaves you the drink.
would break into his house looking to be dominated by him. Just the protectors coming to see what's going on. Under the cover of, well, I was going to say day for night, but it's not even that really. It's just sort of day for day. Oh, at least on location. Now we're in the studio. It's supposed to be nighttime. Sneaking into his house. Lots of lovely antiques and valuables about the place. And even though we know that Harry set up the alarm system here, the protectors don't seem to have had much trouble getting in.
That's curious. Now, that piece was on sale in Roma last week.
have they? Uh-oh.
Well done, Mr. Rule.
Well done.
Stay where you are.
Contessa, don't be foolish. These things are priceless. Well, as an expert, you must appreciate that any violence in this room
Will do no harm whatsoever.
Oh, no.
There isn't a genuine piece in this room. How about this for a piece of chinoiserie?
Contessa!
Perhaps you prefer a fake Hellenic head.
What do you say to that, sir?
The value of my collection is well known.
Every major item in this room has found its way into the sale rooms in the last 6 months.
Ever since your company took a stock market meeting on the Alaskan oil concessions.
He's a naughty boy.
Are you suggesting that Gregor Koufax is broke?
I'm suggesting that $3 million in insurance money might come in pretty handy just now.
I want them arrested now. You saw yourself the gems stolen.
I still recognise this henchman guy.
It's pretty prompt. The contents of the upstairs safe.
Oh, so he had them all along. And that's an interesting shot. Bowles picks up an ornament, throws it at his own henchman, and it smashes. It appears to smash across the guy's face, but if you watch it in slow motion, there's actually like a pane of protective glass between the two of them. Who was that guy? I'm going to look that up before I go mad.
Proposal to you.
Or maybe I'm already mad. I won't look at it. I want to say that it's someone. Oh, who cares? Like I said, it's a Protector's randomizer. Nobody's going to be listening to this. I could be recording this with no clothes on and it wouldn't matter. In fact, I am recording this with no clothes on. In fact, I'm recording this from a hot air balloon.
Look, I'm burning. Will you put some more of that junk on me?
I mean, that's more interesting than our little end of episode comedy moment here. Harry and the Contessa are sunning themselves in...
Feel it.
You just want your back rubbed.
In the front room of Harry's apartment.
Yeah, I can feel it.
About my equipment.
I think your equipment is fabulous, but I am familiar with it.
Harry needs some sunscreen put on his back. So she's written the word Scrooge across his back. And underlined it. Which, if nothing else, is rather a waste of sun cream, actually. But anyway, that was The Protectors, Triple Cross, which is a perfectly decent little episode, as most of these, certainly the UK-based episodes. Del Henney, that's who it was. I was thinking Resurrection of the Daleks. He was the Colonel in Resurrection of the Daleks, wasn't he? Anyway, so, a couple of nice guest performances there, John Neville and Mr. Peter Bowles, but otherwise, just another average episode of The Protectors, really.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for another lovely randomiser. And
yes,
if that's not a warm-up for Gerry Anderson Day, I don't know what is.
No, quite right too. And random. Did you know that?
Of course, yes. Well,
yes.
I'll tell you what's not random. It's all the episodes that we've carefully curated and selected for Gerry Anderson Day across all the multitude of platforms you're able to watch and listen on, including BritBox and Shout Factory and Forces TV and Big Finish and Fab Live.
Crikey.
All that stuff is to come. Make sure you follow the hashtag Gerry Anderson Day and join us for all the goodies to come and enjoy everything Gerry Anderson. And make sure you do introduce the worlds of Gerry Anderson to a friend. Someone who's never seen anything before or never really appreciated it. It's the perfect day to grow the Gerry Anderson universe by adding some more fans.
What could we call that? The G number? If we said that the G number is currently between 0.7 and 0.9, which means it's shrinking, we want to get that G number over 1, don't we? So you need to go out and tell at least one other person and get that G number over 1. Does that make sense?
I love that you're using an infection model for this, but I suppose you're not far off. Let's be as infectious as possible this Gerry Anderson Day. Only in terms of fandom.
Well, quite right too, yeah. Now, over on Twitter, Dominic has been tweeting us at Gerry Anderson Podcast. No, that's not right. He's been hashtagging us.
Yeah, that's what he's been doing.
At Gerry Anderson Podcast. There we are. And tagging him, I'm Jamie Anderson, me, Richard and James, and him over there, Chris Dalek, saying, I've just listened to Jamie Anderson's interview with Ray Earl.
Oh,
what an amazing person. She shares my love of Scarlet, but Thunderbirds and Scarlet are tied for first place. But, he says, I have to disagree with which bird is best. Dominic says, Thunderbird 2 for the win.
Oh.
I mean, I agree with that. Carl tweeted, firstly, there was a superb 3-part interview with Richard Harvey on the Gerry Anderson podcast, and then lo and behold, a piece on Richard and his band Griffin on my favourite music mag. Funny how that happens. Yeah.
That is strange, isn't it?
Synchronicity.
Coinky dinky, as Dad used to say.
Indeed so. Stephen tweeted to say, last night I watched Avalanche from Captain Scarlet and discovered that Cloudbase can move and all that. I never knew.
Yeah, of course it can move. How do you think it got up there?
Why is that a surprise? And finally, John Quinn. Interesting from Fab Facts that the sonic screwdriver from Doctor Who started off in Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet. UFO Moonbase stuff ended up in the Green Death and probably other crossovers. Not so much going the other way, though. Or is there? So do you know of any prop that started life in Doctor Who and ended up in a Gerry Anderson series, or from any other show and ended up in a Gerry Anderson series? Do let us know. Drop us a line, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, or tweet us and hashtag us Gerry Anderson Podcast, and we'll see it there.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, I would think less of a chance that stuff went the other way because of the nature of the BBC, being a public service broadcast, especially then.
Yeah.
Very kind of insular in terms of doing stuff like that. They wouldn't be it wouldn't be selling stuff out, but maybe they did. I'd love to know.
Maybe they did.
Do email us.
Yeah.
Okay, Dickie James. I feel like this is probably the end of this week's podcast. Is that kind of the right feeling I've got there?
Well, I mean, I think we've covered all the bases, haven't we?
Well, we do our best. If we've missed anything, if you've got any thoughts, questions, criticisms, critiques, critical theories, I don't know, email us podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk or tweet us as Richard has previously described in this episode. So until our bonus episode in just a couple of days' time on the 14th of April for Gerry Anderson Day, I think we should probably sign off. I'm currently doing a very gratuitous salute.
Me too.
Goodbye.
SPA.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Right. Have you got the popcorn?
Yeah, I have got the popcorn. Yeah, I got salt and sweet. Is that all right?
Brilliant. Yes, I'm kind of hoping for some of that really fancy salted caramel stuff that's sort of slightly chewy and.
That's a bit expensive, though, isn't it?
I need one pack. Come on. Anyway,
well, if I
so I've got my own body weight in popcorn here to sit and watch all the Gerry Anderson Day stuff.
Do you want the duvet on as well, or should I keep that to myself?
Well, we've done an episode of Fab Live with that before, haven't we? We were both under the duvet, and it did raise a few eyebrows.
It did. Maybe I'll keep it to myself.
So let's do that. But of course, I've realised we can't actually watch it because we're going to be in it.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
No, we're in Fab Live and you're doing the live tweets and there's other stuff happening, so we're not going to we can't even enjoy Gerry Anderson Day.
Well, we better get through this popcorn quick then.
Okay, let's start now. Okay.
Pass it over.
I've got...
Hang on, don't take it all.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.